One of the biggest cliches and tropes in storytelling is the inner demon archetype. This is essentially where we have a main character that has another entity residing in their body, two souls in the vessel. And one of the most popular ones is, of course, none other than Naruto, having a nine-tailed fox demon residing in him since birth. And at the beginning of Naruto, it definitely appeared that these two would never get along. The two despised each other so much that Naruto vowed to never rely on the Nine Tails ever again in battle, even though the Nine Tails gave him a huge upper hand in a majority of his fights. But in the second half of Naruto, the two of them grew a mutual respect for each other and began to work together as a duo of sorts. Fast forward to the next generation of manga we have today. There are several manga out there that still follow up this similar trope, but I want to prioritize this subject on two manga specifically. Those being Jujutsu Kaisen and a follow-up series to Naruto, Boruto, Naruto Next Generations. Both of these series have a lot of things going on for themselves, but one thing they have in common is that inner demon trope, but this time is vastly different. First, let's talk about the main characters of both series and how they ended up with their bodies becoming a 2-for-1 special. We have Yuji Itadori, a high school student that gets thrust into the world of Jujutsu sorcerers after consuming a cursed object, which in turn allowed the cursed spirit within that object to essentially resurrect himself within Yuji, that spirit being Sukuna. Now with Boruto, son of the Hokage and a brand new ninja with a lot to prove to his father, after an encounter with two aliens who've come to Earth to terraform it and eat it, I think, it gets a little convoluted, I'm not gonna lie. Boruto takes one of them down with the aid of Naruto, that alien being Momoshiki, but before his death, Momoshiki plants himself into Boruto in the form of this thing called a karma. Now I know that was a lot, especially that Boruto part, but just bear with me here. Now when we get to Sukuna and Momo swap places with the main character for the first time, it's very much kind of what you would expect from this trope. They spout some nonsense about being superior and whatnot, with Sukuna being a little more sinister with the implication of what he was going to do to the women and children. But whatever. But for the most part, nothing too out of the ordinary. Now, it would be with their second swap that everything would flip on its head. When Yuji was going up against a cursed spirit by himself and lacked the power to defeat it, he gave his body over to Sukuna, who quickly got rid of it. When Boruto was knocked unconscious against his fight with yet another alien, Momoshiki took the reins. Now, you may think this is still in line with those hype anime moments, right? Where the main character just goes berserk and completely thrashes the opponent. You won't find that here. See, in the case of Sukuna, he very well feeds into that trope as if he's a part of the reader. He understands that Yuji will call out for him when he's in a bind, and then he will resume control. But not this time. See, at this moment, Yuji didn't take his body back, and that small bit of reluctance from Yuji was enough for Sukuna to wreak havoc. This is where the reader realized that Sukuna is not like the Nine Tails. He's very much on his own side. He serves no one but himself at all times. This is where we see the beginning of Sukuna putting a plan in motion for himself to fully resurrect and no longer share a body with Yuji. In the brief time Sukuna has Yuji's body, he beats up Megumi, also testing him for unforeseen circumstances that will later come to fruition. But not only that, he fucking kills Yuji. Just flat out rips his heart right out of his chest like nothing happened. Just to make a vow with Yuji to be able to take over his body at will when he says a phrase. And not only that, but in that vow, Yuji won't remember that conversation whatsoever. This guy's moving different. Don't even get me started on Shibuya. First thing this guy does when he gets tagged in is obliterate a woman's head clean off her body. Then he challenges one of the strongest spirits in the verse to a fight that completely decimates a city. Twice in the same night. After all this happened, before he swaps back with Yuji, he mocks him. He tells him, look at all this I was capable of doing while I was in control of your body. For Yuji, when Sukuna takes control, it's basically Yuji during those same acts. It's as if he's almost just as responsible as Sukuna is, which is nothing short of mental torture for Yuji. Sukuna, like I said before, serves no one but himself and also gets off on seeing Yuji suffer as he carries out his plan to resurrect himself fully. He has absolutely no interest in being someone else's pawn. Now, Momoshiki's second swap with Boruto, right on the tail end of arguably one of their tougher battles, Momo completely blindsides Sasuke with a kunai straight to his eye, nerfing him and causing quite a stir up in the community as he takes out the Rinnegan, which in Naruto's verse is an extremely strong ocular ability that allows the person to use all types of crazy jutsu which kind of strays away from the initial thing about being ninjas, but whatever. See, Momo is also on a conquest to fully resurrect himself. When he planted that karma in Boruto, it essentially gave Boruto a clock until he would cease to exist. Similar to the movie Get Out, Boruto was basically going to be going to the sunken place, as Momoshiki would have full reign on his body. However, just because that was already in motion, Momo still had two very large obstacles in his way, and they were Naruto and Sasuke. After Naruto assisted in knocking down Ishiki at the cost of losing the Nine Tails, that was one thing Momo had knocked off his list. But there was still Sasuke with a god level ability that just had to go. And not only does he get rid of the Rinnegan, but he also just starts roughing up Sasuke and Kawaki as well, until he had no choice but to swap back with Boruto. Momo's next appearance will be against Code and trying to apprehend Kawaki so that he can feed him to the Ten Tails, cultivating a divine tree, which in turns would allow him to eat the planet, as aliens do, I guess. Unfortunately for Momoshiki, Boruto had a contingency plan with Kawaki, resulting in him fucking killing himself, taking Momo with him. And in order for them both not to die, Momo had to give up his plan of resurrection within Boruto to revive him, resulting in him becoming a permanent backseat in Boruto's body. You would think it would stop right there, but no, sir. Now, Momo's goal is just to fuck with Boruto and have Boruto's spirit crumble to the point where he is willingly able to give his body to Momo, constantly mocking him and berating Boruto when things take a turn for the worse in the story. Last we saw Momo, Boruto basically shut him up, and we aren't quite sure what his deal is now with Two Blue Vortex, as he hasn't made an appearance just yet. But I'm sure he's still hating in the background, waiting for Boruto to ultimately slip up. Now, what I enjoy most about these two is just how they very much go against the traditional narrative of the inner demon. These two are just so blatantly out for themselves with no signs of redemption so far. It's just enjoyable and hype when they show up because you just know that they're about to foil whatever the heroes had in motion. They're like a permanent villain, one that you can't get rid of, and who are always lurking in the shadows ready to strike. I also think it's probably because these two are just, they were beings before they were inside of the vessel, if you want to call it that, with Yuji and Boruto. Now, not saying that the Nine Tails, of course, wasn't his own thing before he was inside Naruto. Not saying that at all, because we all know he was. I just think that these two already had their own plans and what they wanted to do before they ultimately got into the situation they were in. Now, with the Nine Tails, he was essentially just a giant walking animal. I'm almost certain that they didn't have any plans of terrorism as Momoshiki and Sukuna do. So I very much enjoy the fact that the direction that these two are going isn't what we typically have, because it offers up something different. Now with Boruto specifically, it was definitely looking like Boruto was just going to be Naruto 2.0, especially when we had the group Kara show up, which was kind of like a Diet Akatsuki, basically doing the same thing, going after Boruto, who would lead to them being able to eat the planet. I don't know what the deal is with that universe and wanting to eat the planet or whatever for world domination, but that's the thing with Boruto. And with Sukuna, him just really wanting to get back into the prime days of having his own body and doing what he wants and not being held back is also a very welcome addition as well. And I think these two stand to be probably one of my favorite new gen characters out of current manga.
Popping it, pass on my coat. I'm on the road, low like I'm Batman.